It
That's
depends on
what.
how you're using the word, apparently.
Oh,
Well,
gee.
let's get started, and we'll school Heidi on the English language in a bit. Love you,
Sure.
Heidi. Everybody, I want to welcome Coach Chris today. Chris is one of the great coaches here at Tom Ferry, and has been gracious enough to give us an hour of time today to talk about the business and hopefully help you with some touch points on your database. Chris, take it away.
So I'm going to try and share my screen here and see if I can get this. There we go. Let me my slideshow going here. Present on
Okay,
screen. Okay, hang on a second here. I gotta, because I don't have double monitors here today, so every time I try and go and go into present mode, it doesn't want to let me do that. So give me one sec.
We can all have a little sympathy. Chris is trying to sell his house today, and somebody wanted an appointment, so he is at the office so that they can go see his lovely house.
I mean, really, who goes to the office?
I haven't been
Anybody
in an
in the
office in ages.
Exactly. Can you guys see that? I have it in, is it mastering your
Yes.
database?
Yes.
Oh, beautiful. All right. So my presentation today is going to be on just this mastering your database and touch points. So it's going to get a little, I'll call it sciencey, because we're going to talk a little bit about the reticular activating system, and how it influences touch points, and how it can influence your database. So without further ado, I'm going to get going. So the rules for this call, is I want you to engage, interact, ask questions, because if I'm the only one talking, expect to be bored or sell, right? Again, engage, ask questions, interact. And I put a little disclaimer that the information and strategies I'm sharing is obviously one way of doing things. Always discuss your strategies with your coach. This is just to give you a different way of thinking about things. So any questions so far? I got the hard part out of the way.
Let's go for it.
All right. So let's, I want this to be somewhat interactive. So I want to get some input from people. So when we talk about your database, now here's the other question. Is it database or database? I got to know. Anybody?
It's database.
I call it both, depending who I'm talking to. If my clients call it database,
data,
I call it
Star
database.
Trek, Star Trek, data,
Data.
database.
Yeah.
There
Data?
you go.
Okay, we'll call it a database today.
In Canada,
So-
we say data.
That'd be wrong.
So let me ask you guys, let's get some feedback. Is your database the same as your sphere of influence? Anybody input? Feel free to speak up.
Yeah, I consider that my sphere of influence because that's why I keep everybody in that one place.
Okay, I'm sorry, I only caught about half of that. So
Yeah, that's where I keep everyone that I meet, and I put them in my phone. I transfer them to my database and as my SOI. But they don't consider my sphere of influence because I'm sending them everything real estate.
okay. Anybody else? Is
No.
your database and your sphere the same?
No, they're separate.
Okay, so tell me what's separate about them. Who should be in each one?
So my clients and anybody I meet who could be a potential client is in one. Any vendors like lenders, other realtors, anybody else, they're separate. They get separate information from me. They don't all get the same information.
And again, and there's no right or wrong, right? This is all perspective. It's one of those subjective topics that, you know, not everybody has the same perspective. So in my world, let me give you my definition of what I think a database is. So I think your database is friends, family, current clients, past clients. Although I know we're not supposed to say past clients anymore. So friends, family, current clients, past clients, acquaintances. So really anybody you have contact information for. You have a first name, a last name, an email, and a phone number, right? And the crutch to that is, and they would know you walking down the street. So if you walk down the street and they see you and they would recognize you or someone mentions your name, then you know them, they should be in your database. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So, and again, so that ties into my next question. What info do I need to include somebody in my database? For me, it's just those pieces of information. first name, last name, phone number, email, and I know them walking down the street, they would know me. There would at least be that recognition, which we'll get into a little bit more of that when we talk a little bit about the reticular activating system. So the reticular activating system, what is it and why, right? Again, we're realtors, we're not scientists, so why do we need to know about it? So I found a really good video yesterday by this lady here. She is Dr. and I can't see her name on the bottom of my screen because I have it on share screen, but I want to play this video for you guys. It's like a 2.5-minute video that talks about the reticular activating system and what it will do for you. And anyone that coaches with me in my schedule, when we do the onboarding call, we actually talk about the reticular activating system. And people think, why are we talking about this? But it is a crucial part of your database management, and the things we're going to talk about. So I'm going to play this video real quick. Hopefully it sounds really good. Did I share that?
There's no sound.
Yeah, you might want to share with
Awesome.
sound. You might need to unshare and share with sound.
I might need to turn my headset off. That might work. Is there a share with sound button, really?
Yeah, when you share in the lower left corner, it says share with sound.
Okay,
And
well,
who
let me try
doesn't
this.
want to hear Cher singing? Yeah.
Okay, well, I just changed my microphone. So let me go to the unshare part here and let me see if I can share with sound.
In the meantime, hi everybody. We got some new people on. I love it when you all are on camera so we can see your bright, shiny faces.
So where it says, Bob, when I go to share screen and I go to advanced, is it computer audio?
Share with sound is in the lower left corner.
Okay, oh, there we go. Oh, you are a rock star, Bob. See, I learned something today.
Hey,
Hang on a second
always
here.
happy to contribute.
Okay, it's just not letting me click the share with sound button here. Notice to hear sounds. Yes.
I love looking at everybody's virtual backgrounds. Either you got a great library, Robin, or that's a screenshot. I'm not sure.
I wish it is a screenshot.
Yeah.
So
Yes. Coach Stephanie, you watch the road in that Lamborghini thingy you drive. You get off the camera.
I was just telling you I'm here.
Okay, love. Tabitha, how are you doing today?
Let me try this again here. Oh, hang on, let me get the right screen here that I'm going to share.
I'm good, Coach Bob.
Okay, good. Good to see you again. Okay, let's try this now.
Right, hopefully this works. Tell me if you can hear this. Sound, yes,
Yes,
no?
so far.
yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
Hey there, welcome back. So have you ever learned a new word and then started to hear it everywhere? Or maybe you're thinking about buying a new car. All of a sudden, that car seems to be the most popular car on the road. Or maybe you find yourself in a noisy crowd, but somehow you can still hear someone call your name from all the way across the room. That is your reticular activation system, or your RAS, hard at work. See, all of your senses, except for smell, which goes directly to the brain's emotional center, but all of the other senses are wired directly to this small bundle of neurons at the top of the spinal column. And it might be really small, but the RAS has a huge job because it's the brain's bouncer, or the informational gatekeeper. It decides what information to let in and what information to toss out by creating a filter to sift incoming data through and let in only that which is relevant. I mean, think about all of the visual stimuli around you. Scientists estimate that the conscious mind can handle about 100 pieces of information per second. But the human eye alone captures more than 300. I mean, just think of all that information trying to get into our conscious awareness. And then add in what we hear, touch, and taste. Imagine how overwhelmed the brain would be if it had to process all of that incoming sensory stimuli. The RAS determines what's relevant and what's just clutter. The RAS also plays an important role in motivation and goal setting. Often the biggest obstacle in reaching a goal is staying focused and motivated long enough. The new research in goal setting maintains that the RAS keeps the goal top of mind by activating our arousal system to information that is relevant and filtering out information that is not. The RAS programs itself to work in your favor toward that goal without you actively doing anything. Like when we set a goal, we automatically set the RAS in motion to pay attention to the positive people or things that will help us reach that goal. Cool, right? Want to learn more about the brain's bouncer? Check.
Okay, let's turn off the, let's go back to the slideshow. I'll stop the video. This is just her doing her little pitch. So can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So the reticular activating system, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to our database, ties in with top of mind awareness, which is kind of what's going to be on. Go to the next slide. All right, so top of mind awareness. So top of mind awareness is defined as being the first brand that comes to mind when a customer is asked an unprompted question about a category. So when we talk about top of mind awareness and the reticular activating system, so how are they connected? So your database, top of mind awareness, and the reticular activating system, they're interconnected through the effective use of client information, consistent communication, and the brain's natural filtering system. So leveraging these connections are what's really going to help you maintain strong client relationships and achieve business goals. So when we talk about, like, how does all this fit in with Touchpoints? Now, right, make it stop, the science part, right? That part, the top of mind awareness, reticular activating system. How do all of these things turn into business? How do they connect? Well, your reticular activating system is filtering out all the information that's coming in. Top of mind awareness is created by your marketing pieces, your touch points. So those two pieces together, top of mind awareness and the reticular activating systems, are what's going to make you relevant to your clients. So how does that tie into touch points? And what are touch points? So when we talk about touch points, let's get some feedback. What do you guys think touch points are with your clients? Anybody?
Conversations.
So conversations, that would be one. What else would be a touch point?
Your newsletter.
Text.
So a newsletter, yeah,
Email.
that would be a touch point. Email.
Text.
Anybody else?
Social
Text.
media.
Social media, right? All valid touch points. So in your guys's campaigns, touch points with your clients, I've kind of got the answer already on the slide, but right now, if you were to honestly look at your business, what is the average number of touch points per year you guys have with your clients? With anybody in your database? Anybody?
15.
15? Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, I was
For me,
gonna
I'd say about
like
7 to 10.
I was
7
gonna
to
say
10
about
per year?
12.
Okay. So
Mhm.
here's when we talk about top of mind awareness and the reticular activating system. Part of the reticular activating system and that filter is also tied into short-term memory recall. So when we have touch points with clients, that short-term memory recall is going to last probably anywhere from 10 to 14 days. So in my world, I have to refresh that every two weeks, every 10 to 14 days. I need to do something where I can refresh that top of mind awareness. So that's where touch points come in. So when I talk to my clients and we say, how many touch points do we need, right? And I say 36 to 48, the answer I normally get is, holy shit. Why so many? Right? And then we refer back to the reticular activating system and those filters and the top of mind awareness. So what I'm trying to do with touch points, having 36 to 48 touch points a year, is every 10 to 14 days, I'm trying to re-engage the reticular activating system, re-engage that short-term memory. So when they're at work, when they're on social media scrolling through their Facebook, when they're at a family get together or they're out networking and somebody starts talking real estate, the filters in the reticular activating system are right away they start nudging them, right? They start nudging them saying, hey, Chris Hedstrom, realtor, that's the guy you want to talk to. That's how all this ties together with your database. which is why that 36 to 48 touch points is what's relevant. So when we talk about 36 to 48 touch points, how many, what type of touch points, how are we going to do all this? So this is where we start to break down. Oh, why is my slide not working? There we
Hey,
go.
Coach, can
So how
can
do I
we ask
contact
a
people
question
in
here?
my school? Yeah, for sure.
Okay, Coach. So let's define a touch point, because when I gave my answer, I was thinking, well, parties, events, and
Yeah.
and postcards. Social media is considered a touch point for you? Because
So
I agree with that. I
social
just didn't consider it.
Yeah, so for me, social media, there's two ways with social media. We all know how, you know, for social media, I use that as that's passive. So do I count that as typically a touch point? I don't, unless it's a direct message to somebody. But when I'm doing scheduling content, or say I have, for example, I have it set up right now. I have 3 posts a day that go out just to keep my news feed active. That's passive, right? It's nothing I can track and measure. So I don't consider that a touch point. Because otherwise, if I did, people would be saying, well, I posted on social media 3 times today. That's 3 touch points. Right. So for me, the only way I count social media as a direct touch point is when it's done in an active manner, meaning I directly reached out to someone. Maybe I contacted someone on Facebook Messenger, and I had a conversation with them. I would consider that a touch point. But a regular social media post, I would not. That
Putting
make
their
sense?
birthday on
Thank you for
social
that.
media, like wishing them happy birthday on social media, that's a touch point though, right? Because you're directly going into their box to wish them a happy birthday.
It is, but I also think there's better ways to wish them a happy birthday.
Mhm.
My personal opinion, right? I think I'm a big fan of personal notes. I'm a big fan of video messages. There's so much technology out there that we can do better than just, you know what? I always say to my clients, when you go on your birthday, you log into Facebook and you have hundreds of people saying happy birthday. How many of those people do you remember a week later, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later? Because I remember my last birthday, I had hundreds of people saying happy birthday on my wall. I could not tell you who any of them were. If you ask me right now, but what I can tell you is if you ask me who contacted me directly on my birthday, I can tell you exactly who contacted me directly. But I can't remember anyone that wished me happy birthday on Facebook because it just becomes so routine. So, right, I can tell you my kids called me on my birthday. My mom, of course, called me on my birthday. And I still remember to this day, it was about 5 years ago. I had an agent that I'd done a deal with probably 3 years earlier. And we hadn't talked to her in 3 years. Well, for whatever reason, she decided to reach out to me and she called me and actually sang happy birthday to me on the phone. And that was 5 years ago. And I remember it to this day. So she did something over and above what everybody else did, which kind of made her stand out. Right. So when I talk about ways to make contact, right? How to contact people in your sphere, in your database. So here's some of the things that I like to do. So emails, right? At least 2 emails a month. So when I look at that 36 to 48 touch points a year, no more than 2/3 of those touch points can and should be by email. Right? Some people like to take, even myself, I've had coaching clients that we struggle. We try and break down why they're not making connections with their database. And after a certain amount of time, they finally come clean and say, well, because I never actually pick up the phone. All I do is email, or all I do is text. Right? So that's why we say no more than 2/3 of these touch points can be by email. So I try and send out 2 emails a month, direct mail monthly. Now, depending on the size of your database, that can be cost prohibitive, which we'll talk a little bit about here in a second. At a minimum, quarterly phone calls. So I have text messages in here. Now, text messages for me can be strategic. They can be video text messages. They can be or like birthday text messages. They could be when somebody has a certain life event going on. I may send them a text. Social media, we talked about, the passive and active. Video, I think, is a great tool for your database. Pop buys, client events, and I'm really big. I forgot to put it on this slide, but I'm really big in personal notes. So one of the things that I do is on a weekly basis, like when I scroll through Facebook, I take a certain amount of time where I will scroll Facebook and just look for events that people have going on in their lives. And when I see something that, someone had a baby, someone got married, someone graduated, or God, even if they bought a new car, that's a reason for me to reach out. and I send a personal note directly in the mail. Because what I like about a personal note is, as opposed to an email, a phone call, or a text message, when I send that personal note, people go through the motions of going to the mailbox, pulling it out of the mailbox, looking at the envelope, opening the envelope, looking at the card. And then they don't just hit delete on the card like they might with an email, or they don't just scroll past to the next text like they might with a text. Most people will display that card somewhere. So that gives me even more ways to stay in touch, right? Just to stay top of mind, because they display it on their mantle or on their fireplace or wherever they display it. So I'm a big fan of personal notes. And I go on a listing appointment. Everybody gets a personal note afterwards. I do a buyer consult. They get a personal note afterwards, thanking them for meeting with me. So I think personal notes are one way that it's a little more old school, but I think it's not utilized nearly enough.
Hey, Chris, Coach,
Yep.
how good is your handwriting? Because I honestly, part of the reason I don't do personal notes is my handwriting is rubbish.
Mine sucks too. I spent 18 years working as a paramedic, so doing lots of charts and stuff like that. So that meant my handwriting turned into a scribble. So there's technology out there you can use for it. But personally for me, you know what? I know my handwriting sucks. A lot of the people that I'm dealing with, they may or may not know my handwriting sucks, but I'm also a firm believer in being authentic. So I try and make it as legible as I can, but I just find like there's the technology for me to have software write the card for me and send it to someone. I just don't believe it's genuine and authentic. So for as much as I know my handwriting sucks, my clients know exactly that it came from me and it was done by my hand. So that's more
Got it.
important for me. It's just that authenticity piece. Now, that doesn't mean you can't use technology or you can't have someone else write cards, because I'm guilty. Like at Christmas time when I send out Christmas cards, same thing. I believe they should be handwritten. I always paid my kids. I'd have my daughters writing the cards because their handwriting was good, or I'd have my wife sit down. We'd all just sit down writing out cards. And I used to pay my kids. That's how they used to extort me for money when they were younger, because I'd pay them, depending on how many I was sending out. Quite often it'd be $1 a card. Write out the card, stuff the envelope, get it ready to drop in the mail. So we talked a little bit about the breakdown, what we should be doing, right? So here's what I think. If you're making at least 36 to 48 contacts a year, remember the goal here is with our database, we should be getting a 10% conversion rate. So if we have 200 people in our database, there should be 20 transactions there. So for a lot of people, they think, well, how can I get a 10% conversion out of 200 people? So you're saying 20 people are going to buy or sell every year? And I look at it this way, is if I have 200 people in my database and those 200 people also have 200 people in their database, I now have 40,000 people to try and get 20 transactions out of. So when you put it that way and you look at it, well, 20 transactions out of 40,000 doesn't really sound like a lot. 20 transactions out of 200 sounds a little more daunting, right? But the goal with me staying in touch with my database and working on these touch points, it's to maintain top of mind awareness. So I also get all of their referral business, right? That's the goal for me, is trying to get that referral business. So to say, hey, 20 transactions out of 40,000 people, that sounds totally reasonable, right? It sounds a little light when you put it that way, right? So when our touch points, again, we talked about at least four calls a year. Mailers should not exceed more than 5% of your gross commission income. Direct mail pieces can get costly, right? So we do want to manage our budget accordingly as well. So I put together some sample plans here as well. So there's some ideas here, like a very simple plan. So 40 plus annual contacts, right? So we're going to get 26 emails a week or a year. So at least once every 2 weeks, they're going to get 12 mailers sent out, quarterly phone calls, personal notes 2 times a year, birthday card, video. Again, I post regularly on social media over the course of the year. That's going to just help build that mind share, gather a following, and help increase that 10% conversion rate. Because regardless of, again, when I say social media being passive, if you're just scrolling by and someone sees your name, you're still re-engaged that reticular activating system, right? Sending that direct mail piece. Even if someone looks at the envelope, sees your name on it, throws it in the garbage, they've still engaged that reticular activating system and that short-term memory. So that's the win. All they need to do is see the envelope with my name on it. So I don't care if they don't open the newsletter. I don't care if they don't read it. They open the email, they look at it, they see my name and they delete it. I've still re-engaged that reticular activating system. Right, so the simple plan, here's one idea. Sorry, go ahead.
So question, so when you send out that email, do you make sure your name is in the subject line?
I don't. I make sure I have the subject line for me has to be something that's engaging. Right, it has to be something that they're going to see and maybe perceive some value in it. But they know my email address, because when my email shows up, it's going to have Chris Hedstrom, chris@hedstromgroup.com. So that alone is going to re-engage. So I don't put my name in the subject line because, in my opinion, it's a little more self-serving. I want it to be genuine. I want it to be authentic. I want them to be to want to open it. So I make sure that there's something valuable in that subject line. Right? It's no different when you look at search engine optimization, things like that, right? You want to have things that are engage people and attract people and want them to open it.
Hey, Coach, we have a question in
Okay,
the chat
John.
here from Coach Stephanie, who's driving. Do you leave or remove people from your database who will never use you personally, but will refer you?
I have people in my database that I've never done a transaction with, but they are good for one referral a year, no matter what. Guaranteed. They've told me point blank, you know what, we're going to die in this house. They're going to. What's that?
I would still nurture those too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because like I said, I've got people that say, hey, we're never going to move. We're going to die in this house. Right. So, but I get a referral from them every year.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to nurture the hell out of those people. I'm going to treat them like gold. Right. Those are still my A+ clients. So absolutely. Right. So sample plan, that was one example. I've got another one, which is like a value-based plan. So the value-based plan, when we look at this one, it's this one can be a little bit more costly, right? So you're looking at, say, 18 emails a year, 6 phone calls. So you're increasing the phone calls, decreasing the emails. You're doing pop buys. Client appreciation events. I love client appreciation events, no matter what they are, because they give you the opportunity to have multiple touch points, right? You can invite them by email, invite them by text, communicate via text. Hey, just want to make sure you got my invite. You can send something in the mail. You can phone them. You can do post-event follow-up. Simple client events. Sometimes people overthink client events, in my opinion. They think it has to be something big and extravagant. I've done events where we've done a food bank drive, right? A simple food bank drive. I have people bring stuff to our office. We have food trucks there, some coffee, a couple, tacos or something like that. It can be very costly or inexpensive doing things like that. I've done shredding events. Hire a shredding truck and have people bring all their excess shredding to the office, and you pay for the shredding. I've done Santa Claus pictures where I hired a Santa Claus to come to my office, and we did photos and either emailed them out to people so they could use them on all their social, or we'd print them at the when we did the photo, we'd print them right there. Right? Very inexpensive ways to do things without having to spend thousands of dollars on, feeding people and drinks and entertainment and all that stuff. So I think client appreciation events can be done very simple, very inexpensive, and they're very valuable. We talked about direct mail pieces, personal notes, the birthday cards, and the social media engagement. Other things, we've got another plan, like just an efficient plan. So it's kind of a combination of the two. Sometimes you don't have the money for all the direct mail pieces or the client events, things like that. So you can just do newsletters, emails, again, simple client events, your phone calls, pop buys, personal notes, birthday cards, and videos. Very, very similar, right? So a lot of these can be, depending on your budget, there's a lot of things you can do, right? But it's simple ways to get these touch points. And the best part is a lot of this can be automated, right? So we say maintaining your database takes time, right? Discipline, devotion. And because it takes time, it's the reason most agents don't see a 10% return. They don't want to invest the time to grow their database to high quality people, right? They're unwilling to invest the time. You need to have a strong CRM. I think of my CRM as the brains of the operation, right? I log into my CRM, and a good CRM is going to tell you, here's what you need to do today. Here's who you need to call. So it does take a little bit of time, right? But you have to have a good CRM, and you have to put the time and devotion into building up these, drip campaigns, follow-up plans, action plans, whatever you want to call them, and then leverage technology for automation, right? So tips and tricks that I have for database and touch points. right? Avoid diluting your database. It's quality over quantity, in my opinion. I don't, for those that are paying for online leads, I don't have my online leads automatically dump into my database. I manage two separate databases for that. All my online leads stay with my whoever I'm using for my pay-per-click, and I nurture them there. I don't put them into my regular database because I don't want to water it down. If you're generating 100 leads, a month, and you're doing that for 3 years, well, now you've got 3,600 people in there that you probably don't know and may never know that you're trying to nurture on a regular basis. You're trying to call. It's not something that you can consistently do. It's time consuming. It's exhausting. So I try and keep my database to those people that I know. The online leads and things like that I'm working, I don't put them into my primary database until I know them, until I've converted them to a client. Other than that, they stay separate. That's just what I do, right? If you're struggling for content, what am I going to say in my newsletters? I hear this all the time for people. What am I going to say in an email? Use Google Alerts to come up with relevant and current topics to talk to people about, to put in your newsletters. Leverage drip campaigns and automations to increase efficiency. Use relevant tools, ChatGPT, Tom.ai, Keeping Current Matters, Listings to Leads. There's a lot of tools out there that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And consider retargeting as part of your social media strategy, right? And when I say retargeting, things like taking your audience, building a custom audience, uploading it into Facebook, and sending targeted messages directly to them that way. Right? There's lots of different ways you can stay in front of people, that you can leverage touch points. And I just don't think we do enough of it. Right? Our database should be, in my world, 2/3 of my business at a minimum should come out of my database. When I look at all my other lead sources, whether it's open houses, online leads, farming, whatever I'm doing, in my world, those are supplementary. They're designed to fill the gaps if I have any, with my database. But if you build your database right, and you work it strong, and you're really good with touch points, sometimes you don't need those other lead sources. Right? That's just my opinion. Thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, feedback? I'll go through. I'm not sorry, I haven't had a chance to chat, so let me go through the chat and see if there's any.
I've been bringing you the chat.
I have a question. This is Michelle.
Sure.
Would you say that the 100K in 100 days touches that we're doing are touch points? We can definitely include those.
Absolutely they are. And you know what else I think about the 100K in 100 days? I think this challenge is, it's a good time for many of you to build these really good habits on how to stay connected with your database. And why do the touch points have to stop after the challenge is done?
Absolutely.
Right? This is building these really good habits. And it's honestly things we should have been doing all along. It's just sometimes we take, you need that initiative. You need someone like Tom to say, okay, hey, you guys, it's time to get busy here. Like, we've got these people that know and trust you already, but yet we continue to want to make phone calls to people that we don't know and we have no connection to, and hope that they want to do business with us. And my thought process is, I've got people that know and trust me already, so why don't I provide value and do things where I can earn the business? Because here's one of my other pet peeves with real estate agents. We all get pissed when a friend, a family member, somebody we know uses another agent. And my question, whenever someone is telling me a story about how mad they are that they didn't get, that their brother, their cousin, their sister, whoever it is, didn't use them, the first question I asked them is, what did you do to earn the business? And if you've done nothing throughout the year to provide value, to stay in communication with somebody, and they chose to use somebody else, then that's on you, not on them. Right? Earn the business. How do you earn the business? Stay in communication with people. Provide value. Don't just send, like I said, sometimes we just send garbage touch points that really have no meaning. But I'm like, provide value with people. Be real. Be authentic. Be yourself. And you will earn the business.
I have an example of like equity review at the beginning of the year, sending their, if they've recently closed the previous year, send their Alta statements, keeping in touch and providing value.
Absolutely. And I've been talking to some of my clients, and I'll give you an example with the 100K and 100 days challenge. So I had one of my clients in their market, prices have actually come down. Right. So the example that was used was it's like, well, I did like 5 CMAs and I had 4 people rip me a new asshole because I went back at them and said, or like they said they bought their house a year ago for 1.4 million. And now I'm calling them to say, hey, great, your house is worth 1.25. You lost $150,000. Talk about that. And he said, I'm not doing this anymore. This is garbage. And I'm like, well, but your job is to provide value. Your job is to be the professional.
Mhm.
So that means that you take the good, the bad, and the ugly. So if that means you're calling to say, if when they say to me, hey, I lost $150,000, like, well, my first thing to them is, well, did you sell your home? Because you only lost that $150,000 if you sold your home. And then let's change the perspective and say, well, hey, remember when you bought this home, you told me this wasn't your dream home. Well, what if we could take the fact that your home, the value of your home is down now, but remember the dream home you talked about that was $2.5 million? If the value of your home is down $150,000, what do you think the value of that home is down? Maybe now is the time to look at selling your home so you can invest in your dream home. And at the end of the day, if your value is down 150, theirs is probably down 300. So you actually come out ahead $150,000, right? So change the perspective. And so for me, it's like when I'm providing value to my clients, it's about, you know what? Hey, sure, your home's not worth what you paid for it. But that's not an issue. I mean, the real estate market is fluid. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. You only actually lose money if you sell it and cash out. If you haven't moved, you haven't sold it, you haven't lost a thing. Right. So don't be afraid to make those calls and have those difficult conversations and change the perspective. Right. Make people think a little different about it. Okay. Anybody else? I'm trying to scroll through the comments or the questions and see if I missed anything.
So one of the events that I'm big on events. I love to have people nose to nose with their sphere. How many of us have bought like 30 or 40 pumpkins and tried to drive them around town? I've done that one year. I loaded my car up with pumpkins and I was like, by the third house, I was like, this is a waste of my time. I'm going to spend 3 days driving silly pumpkins around in my car. So the alternative that I came up with is, hey, I'm going to be at the pumpkin shop. You know, there's if you don't live in the rural areas, you don't have a pumpkin patch, but you have like a roadside pumpkin place, usually some church or somebody's doing it. I'm going to be there between 2 and 4. Come by and I'll buy your pumpkin. And by the way, everybody who's there who I don't know, I'm buying their pumpkin too for 2 hours because I want to meet those people. The people at the pumpkin yard love you because they're selling 2 hours worth of pumpkins. People who know you are going to come by and see you. People who don't know you are going to be like, oh my God, you're paying it forward. Thank you so much. This is great. You made my kid's day. Do the same thing at the Christmas yard. Don't buy them their tree, buy a wreath. Wreaths are cheaper than trees. Everybody who comes to the Christmas yard between 2 and 5 on Saturday gets a wreath on me. Come see me. I've got coffee, whatever. The tree place is going to love you because they're selling 2-3 hours worth of wreaths. Saves you all that driving.
Love
I
it.
had an agent in my market
And
last year too, hire a photographer for Christmas. And then she had a nice location picked out. She allowed her clients to come with their families and get their Christmas pictures done in November so that they could do their own stuff with their Christmas cards or send out pictures to their family for Christmas. She only had to pay to the photographer to be in one location because the year before she went house to house to house with the photographer, and it was the same thing. It was too daunting.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no bad way to generate a lead, right? So like when if I have client events, I encourage people, like if you're doing a food bank drive, a paper shredding event, photos with Santa, hey, bring a friend. Right? You could set up a landing page if you really wanted to, like hey, if you're bringing a friend, just have them register on my landing page. So just so I have an accurate head count. Right? There's lots of things you can do, but when it comes to touch points, like to leverage technology, like what Bob said with events, I love events because they give me so many different opportunities to reach out. Right? You send an email, hey, I just wanted to call and make sure you got my email to my event. Or you send a text, right? And then it's just the follow-up afterwards. And think of the reason I like things like the food bank drive, for example, is if I do a food bank drive, when I call people to say, hey, we're going to have a food bank drive, it's at my office, we're going to have coffee and snacks and contests. And if they can't come, then my response is always, well, hey, if you still want to be involved, leave a bag of food out on your porch. We're happy to come by and grab it. Because what I want to do is that now I want to take pictures of all the food and all the money that we raised for the food bank drive. I'm going to put that on a postcard and I'm going to send it out to everybody and I'm going to blast it all over social media saying, look what we managed to do for the community. Thanks to all my clients. You guys are awesome. Right? What is that? And that can be done for cheap. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, so food bank drive's great. I don't want to put a box out if I can avoid it. I want you to come to my place between 2 and 3 or 5 or whatever, and just put. We filled my front yard, which was like 3 cars worth of food one year. Dog and cat food drives for the no-kill shelters. Coat drives for the homeless shelter. The homeless shelters need underwear and socks. I had a client do an underwear and sock drive one year, and it was an amazingly good event. You can obviously do what's the other one? Coats, gloves, underwear, socks, food,
Travel
I just
kits,
blew out my head.
hygiene kits.
Okay.
We do
Yeah.
pajamas.
Oh, for the back to school, instead of just getting a supply drive, do a crayon harvest, do a glue harvest. Find one supply and just get all of them you can.
Right? Again, and just the positive publicity that gets. Like when I do those events, I do it because I want to do them. Any business I get because of it is a bonus, right? But it's all about being able to make that connection, make that connection with my clients, and then help out the community at the same time.
I did something really cool during the pandemic. I had a lot of nursing clients, whether they were travel nurses or they were staff nurses. And depending on their shift, I did something simple like supply pizza. And I got leads off of that, like for the shift.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant thing. Good job.
Yeah. And you know, here's one thing I'll tell you when it comes to database is in my world, we as realtors, we have this notion that we have to do business with everybody. And in my world, I'm like, hey, I want to do business with those I like, know, and trust, like truly like, know, and trust. If I have somebody in my database or if I do a deal with a client and they're an absolute pain in the ass, don't feel bad about removing them from your database either. Because I just find that if it's somebody that I didn't like anything about the transaction, they didn't make me feel good, right? It wasn't something I enjoyed. I find in my experience, the referrals I get from people like that quite often are very similar. Right? So we need to understand there's enough business out there for everybody. Identify your ideal client avatar, identify who you want to work with, and focus on working those people. And let me tell you, this job gets so much easier and so much happier. Your energy is better because we've all had that one energy sucking vampire that just kills the week for us, right? So you don't have to work with everybody. Work with those you want to work with, and your business will thrive.
Trinity, I see your hand up.
Yeah. My question is, so if I went to Publix and I said, hey, I want to give away pumpkins, let's just say pumpkins, from 1 to 2 in front, how do I collect those people receiving pumpkin? How do I collect their information without making them feel, out of place?
How would you treat an
if
open
you're
house?
doing,
Huh?
Go ahead, Chris.
yeah, no, I think very, very valid point. How would you treat an open house?
Oh,
Right?
okay.
Nothing
Oh,
saying,
okay.
hey, you could have a sign up sheet. That'd be the easiest thing to do.
Oh, okay.
If you want a pumpkin, like you would just set it up or have a pumpkin sign up here. Here's where you put your name down to receive your pumpkin. They're going to give you a coupon. You come over to me. I take the coupon, give you the pumpkin,
Got you.
and I cover the cost for it.
Got you.
Right?
The other
Don't
thing you
overthink
might
it.
do is just walk into Publix and buy 30 pumpkins and say, hey, I'm going to stand up front right now and just hand them out. I'm here to pay it forward and I want to bring some cheer. And by the way, thank you, Publix. I'm just going to give you a little credit here on my video. I don't know. We can make this work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's sometimes we overthink it, right? As realtors, our job is to make things as difficult as we absolutely can, as opposed to think, how do I do this the easy way? Right? What's the best way for me to do this?
Cheap
Right?
and easy
Would I
thing
be
you
wrong
could
in
do.
saying that?
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Cheap and easy thing I did one time was I went and bought like 50 boxes of stovetop stuffing, less than $2 a box. And this was during COVID. I went around to all the 50 houses on my block and put in a little note and says, here's something warm for your table. Sorry, we can't go home to see family. Happy Thanksgiving. I mean, it doesn't have to be pricey. You know, a $2 box of stovetop. Somebody got something nice for their Thanksgiving table. Something, you know, there's so many things we can do in the next 3 months. If you're my coaching client, you've heard me say this repeatedly. The next 3 months are the best 3 months to be in touch with people. These touch points, holiday parties, Thanksgiving, you know, Halloween, trunk or treat, whatever. Come January, February, there's no reason to talk to people. I mean, how important is Washington's birthday that you have to call somebody?
Yeah, I just thinking of it.
Agree.
When you're saying the small box stores, I could go in and buy 10 $5 coupons and just hand them out at the small box stores. That's pretty good. I never thought of that.
But I'm sorry for my confusion, but Chris, I thought, you know, we're talking about touching people who are in our database.
Yeah.
And now we're kind of like doing things where we're, you know, giving them to people and now getting their names and addresses to add to our database.
Yeah, there's no bad way to generate a lead. The premise behind today's call was, yes, absolutely,
Okay.
touch points.
Got
But
it.
sometimes doing different events do create opportunity to meet new people. Because the one thing we need to understand with our database is we always have people moving out, we always have people moving in. Right? There's sometimes you're taking people out, you always have to replace them. We talk about the hour of power, right? 5 people you know, 5 people you don't know. So that's just our way of adding more people to our database. So we're always trying to replenish. Denise, go ahead.
I think the advantage too of doing the pumpkin patch thing in front of a store or whatever, even if you've invited all your clients to come to it, even if they don't show up and you're giving it out to other people and you haven't collected their names, you can actually post later how many pumpkins went out there and that kind of stuff. So you have another touch point with your clients after the fact, even if they didn't show up.
I do events from time to time like this where my goal is not even to collect information. Right? It's just to give back to my community and just have my name out there. No different than putting signs out for an open house, right? We do a mega open house, we blast our signs everywhere. Sometimes it's just that brand recognition. Right? And maybe somebody from my database does drive by and see me and just pulls in for a quick chat. Right? So for me, it's not always about collecting the information. I know that's always our goal, but sometimes it's just about the event. It's just about what I can do to give back. And if I get something out of it, great. If I don't, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, brand awareness is a critical part of this as well, to Chris's point. Being seen and being known. And I think you'll be seen and known. Let's say you go to the Publix and do this, you're going to be seen and known a lot more than the person who has their picture on their, you know, on the grocery buggies. You know, they're going to know you because you gave them something, you did something nice for them. No offense to anybody who's on a grocery buggy, but yeah.
Something I've never invested a dime of my money in.
I kind of want to call them
and
while I'm
measure.
in the store and say, hey, this is probably the first call you've gotten from one of these buggies, but I just want to tell you, I think of you every day when I put the bananas next to your face. Yeah.
Exactly.
Or the bread or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So any other
Okay.
questions, comments, concerns, complaints?
Can we all thank Coach Chris for his time? Excellent show. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We are going to be putting
Thanks,
this
guys.
out on, I'm sorry?
Oh, I know. I just said thank you, guys.
Absolutely. We're going to be putting the recording out of this probably sometime next week. So your coaches will get that and distribute it to you. And everybody go have a powerful weekend and rest a little bit and get ready for the next 3 months because we got to finish strong.
Hey, for all the Canadians, happy Thanksgiving, because it's Thanksgiving for us this weekend.
Happy Canadian Thanksgiving. Y'all do it better than we do because now you get 2 months to decorate for Christmas without anybody being on your ass about it. If I put up my tree 1 second early, people are on my case about, oh, there's no Thanksgiving yet. Guess what, people? I can do this anytime I want. So
We have to wait till the
Exactly.
Halloween decorations come down though, so.
yeah, October 31st at midnight of the 1st. Boom, there it goes.
We got people with
Free.
Christmas trees up already. People need to just slow your roll. Let us at least
Yeah,
get to
and it's
Thanksgiving.
called Costco and Home Depot. They get you in the mood.
No, there's a
So-
house here. No. Quit. A humbug.
You guys, thanks everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, take care, everybody.
You bet.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Go put your tree